Hi everybody, welcome back to Coach Will's Workshop. Today we're going to be talking about these VHF radios. VHF radios are required by law to have on your boat or vessel as a communication device. So these are communication devices. They're the lifeblood of talking to other boaters, but they're not cell phones. They're not telephones. They're for operational uses only. So in order to use these properly, you need to know what all the different channel designations are. The most important one is channel 16. We'll get into that a little bit later when we talk about using our VHF for emergencies, but channel 16 is used for Mayday, Pan-Pan, and Securite calls, or to reach the Coast Guard or other help when you have an emergency on the water. Channel 13 is used for commercial traffic. Okay, so if you're coming up to a bridge, that's how you get in touch with the drawbridge unless otherwise posted. Or when you're in a busy waterway, that's how other ships communicate with each other or boats communicate with each other as far as traffic is concerned and navigation. Next is 22A, which is a safety broadcast channel. Often when you call channel 16 to talk to the Coast Guard, be prepared to have them switch you over to 22A to carry out the rest of your conversation with them there. So don't be surprised if you're in that situation and they ask you to do that. Make sure you know how to use your VHF and switch channels. So that being said, before we get into the recreational and the channels that you'll use daily when boating, it's good to get a VHF radio that has scan or dual modes so that you can always kind of be keeping tabs on channel 16. Okay, as a boater, when you're out there, you always want to have channel 16 on scan or even up in case other boaters need your assistance. So the recreational channels that we use mostly are 68, 69, 71, 72, and 78A. Places that you boat, may kind of use one or two more than the other. At Lake Forest, we usually use channel 72. So, for instance, this is what it would sound like when someone's coming into Lake Forest Harbor.
LF Harbor, this is Meshuggah.
Go ahead, Meshuggah. This is LF Harbor.
LF Harbor, is the north ramp launch open for docking?
Meshuggah, north ramp is open. We have eyes on you, and we'll see you at the dock soon. Over.
Copy. Meshuggah out.
LF Harbor out. So, what you see there is we used channel 7-2, and we kept the conversation very concise and brief. So I knew who was hailing me. When I hailed back, everyone knew I was talking to the boat named Meshuggah. And then we answered the question, and that was all we talked about. So that's called proper radio etiquette. You want to say your vessel name twice, and then who you're calling once. And if you don't hear back right away, wait a couple minutes and try again. So circling back to using these for emergencies. On channel 16, if you're in a life-threatening emergency, you make a Mayday call. So you say, Mayday, 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 3 times. And then you can state the name of your vessel and your location. Those are the first 3 things, or the Mayday, name of the vessel, and your location are what you should say in your Mayday call until you hear back. Okay, let's say you're far away from shore and you're not hearing back and you're in a very bad situation. It's very important to keep transmitting your Mayday call every couple of minutes, because how these things work is there may be a boater who can receive your Mayday call somewhere down like by the horizon, and they will relay your Mayday call if they hear that you're not getting a response. All right? So keep relaying your Mayday call until you get a response. That being said, the next kind of level is if you're in a very bad situation, but it's not quite life-threatening, is called a Pan-Pan call. So you say Pan-Pan 3 times, and then you give the same kind of information. All right? The third and kind of lowest tier is more of just a warning to other boaters along the waterways. It's called Securite. So same procedures apply. Securite, Securite, Securite. And, at Lake Forest, for instance, that might come into play if after a big storm or something, there's a huge log floating kind of in the common path that boaters take. So your responsibility would be to let other boaters know through a Securite transmission that there's a big log. All right, so people don't hit it. Once you get a call back from the Coast Guard on channel 16, and if they leave you there, move you to 22A, then you're going to want to be prepared with a bunch of other information. Okay, more detailed description of your boat and location. more concise information about what's happening, what the emergency is like, and then very important, how many people are on board and what safety measures you have to take. So just remember, with Mayday calls, keep broadcasting if you don't get a response. That being said, another very important thing with your VHF radios is to set up DSC, which is Digital Selective Calling, and that requires a Maritime Mobile Service Identity, an MMSI number. So if you're in a bigger boat and you have a fixed mount VHF and an antenna, and a GPS unit, what that does is you can just press one button on your VHF if you have an emergency. And since it's a digital signature, a digital distress call that has your vessel name and your location because of the GPS, it's a narrower bandwidth and can transmit much further. So if you are doing a lot of boating in bigger boats and going further from shore, you may want to have one of these handheld VHFs as a backup, but you definitely want to have a fixed mount GPS, fixed mount VHF that communicates with each other, that has an MMSI number and a DCS capabilities. All right, that's very, very important. So now that you've learned a little bit about how to use a VHF, it's required by law and it's very important. Just remember to keep it with you, keep it charged, and keep your messaging concise. This isn't the gossip channel. You tie up the channel and the airwaves when you're talking on it. And now, we're going to learn some other stuff with Nick for today's Knots with Nick.
Thanks, Will. So today we're going to look at how to tie a bowline. A bowline is used when trying to make a loop. This is an extremely helpful knot when you're trying to tie a halyard on a sail, and so many other applications. Now, when you start this, you're going to want to make a loop with your running end going over the tail. Now you're going to come up through the loop you made. You're going to come around the base of this tail and then back into the same hole that it all came out of. Now, when you tighten this, you're going to want to pinch your running end and the initial loop and pinch the tail. And that's what it should look like. Now, notice how my running end is outside of the loop. That's how you want your bowline to work. This is a nice knot. It won't slip. You've got your nice easy loop. And to break it, you can just loosen the loop and the whole thing comes right apart. That's the bowline. Back to you, Will.
Thanks, Nick. That was great. And now over to Will Curtis for Winning with William Curtis.
Good morning. Welcome back to another edition of Winning Wednesdays with William Curtis. Today, we're going to be discussing the components of the race course, and each week after this, we'll break down each specific aspect to determine winning strategies around the race course. The three components that I like to break down a race course in, especially specifically a leg, is into right off the starting line, middle of the course, and final approach to the mark. Each one can be used for upwinds and downwinds, but for the sake of this video, we're going to be talking about the first upwind. The three components are off the starting line, establishing your lane, establishing clear air, and understanding which side of the course you want to go to. The second part is playing that side, whichever side you want to go to, playing the shifts, and playing your competitors. And the third part is establishing a ley line into the mark and understanding where you want to go for the next beat, setting yourself up nicely at the winner mark. Stay tuned as we discuss each one by one. Thank you so much. Back to you, Will.
Copy that, Snack Attack. Copy that, Will Curtis. You guys have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday for Monday Morning Updates.